welcome to the MDF Podcast. This is podcast number 3. This is actually going to be a podcast that was taken from an old podcast that I did, and I had a hard time letting this one go because it's got a very important message that I really wanted you guys to hear. So after this message here, you're going to hear the original podcast, and that's what you'll be hearing. This is episode 3. We're going to be talking about PTSD and depression and veteran suicide. I really think it's a great message for you guys to hear. So we're going to jump on in, and we'll just go ahead and listen together on this old podcast. Today, we are going to discuss veteran PTSD, depression, and veteran suicide. So suicide has been an issue, and I know some of you have recognized this and seen a lot of posts over the past several weeks, months, maybe even years. And it's about 22 veterans every single day take their lives. And these are men that are feeling guilt. They may have survivor's guilt. They may feel remorse. These are men that are feeling like they can't reach out to anybody. They're scared. They feel like it's weakness if they reach out to somebody. And they feel like there's a dim future for them. So I want to go ahead and introduce my 2 guests. I have 2 special guests today, Thomas Lewis and Yvonne Andrews. Thomas, if you could kind of introduce yourself a little bit, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, my name's Thomas. I spent 10 and a half years in the United States Infantry. Had a lot of fun, did a lot of cool stuff. I ended up getting medically discharged in 2015, and my wife was put in the Navy. Or joined the Navy as an officer and practiced.
Oh, we're losing you just a little bit there, Thomas. Can you still hear us?
Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay. We missed that last part. You said your wife went into the Navy? So
my wife stayed home dad and BJJ practitioner.
Okay. All right. So I think we're having a little bit of technical difficulties with your feed a little bit, Thomas. Yvonne Andrews, if you could introduce yourself and kind of give a brief description of what you do.
Hi, I'm Yvonne Andrews. I'm a mental health therapist. I've been practicing for over 30 years. I work with veterans with the Veterans Outreach Center, and I work with veterans who have PTSD. Most have been suicidal at some point or are when I see them. And I work with a lot of depression and survivor's guilt. I also do life coaching for the same group of veterans who choose to not want to have mental health therapy for whatever reason, but life coaching seems like a better option. They get the best of both worlds that way. And I think it really works well because it doesn't matter how you help somebody, as long as you help somebody.
Absolutely. Thomas, we had a great conversation the other day, and I was hoping you'd share the story you told me and Yvonne the other day. And if you could tell me how you managed to take care of yourself and take charge of your life right now after overcoming some of those troubles that you were having.
When I first got out of the military back in 2015, it was troublesome. I got out, I'd been a staff sergeant. I was in charge of a squad and everything. I was door kicker. I was the guy. I had been a guardian angel and everything. I had all these responsibilities, everything, and suddenly I had nothing. I had my 4-year-old girl, my little 4-year-old girl dropped in my lap. My wife took off for deployment within 2 months of me getting out of the military. It was a culture shock, to say the least. And I'm not gonna lie, it really got me down. I felt like I couldn't do anything. The job that I had originally contracted for ended up falling through. I was basically just at that point. I wasn't used to that, not mentally and not physically. I ended up ballooning up to 215 pounds. My natural weight was about 170 when I got out. I was eating all the time. I was depressed. And then my mother offered to take my daughter for a week. And I, readily agreed. I was like, yeah, let her go. And about 5 days into it, I hit my lowest point. I loaded a 45, and I thought, everybody was going to be better off without me. That's truly how I felt. And I hate to bring religion into anything, because I know some people aren't, but I should believe an act of God happened that night. As I was getting ready to pull the trigger, my phone went off. And I just happened to look down. It was my mom. She was calling, and I answered it. And she said, hello. And I was crying a little bit, and she could tell my voice was upset. And she asked me what was going on. And I said, oh, it's nothing. I'm watching an old movie, and I'm just a little sad. That's all. And she goes, well, your daughter's freaking out, and she wants to speak to you. She's been crying for the last 5 minutes to speak to her dad. I said, okay. I said, well, put her on. And as soon as she got on, she told me how I sounded sad and I looked sad. And I said, oh, I'm just, I'm upset because you and mommy are gone right now. And she said, well, Daddy, I love you. Please, I love you. And she just kept crying. And it broke me at that moment. I knew in that moment that, I can't do this to her, and it really touched my soul. And I called a friend of mine, and I said, I called him. He was a former soldier of mine. He was in Georgia. And I asked him, I said, hey, I don't want to be alone right now. What should I do? And he said, man, you know what? You were great at combatives. You loved fighting. He said, why don't you go try Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? He said, I really think, it'll help get you out of the house and get you around people of a like mind. And I said, all right. He told me of a place called Independent MMA. And I went out and tried a class, and I fell in love. It got me out of that dark moment where I couldn't see the light. And suddenly, I was fighting again. I was moving. My body was, getting rid of these nasty foods that I was putting into it. And it made such a difference, to get my physical body moving. Then my mental state started to improve. I picked my daughter up that following Monday, and she was so happy to see me. And I introduced her to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and now we've been going strong for right at about 4.5 years of doing BJJ and working out together, and giving back to the community of veterans, because it helped me realize what was going on. And just like any fight that you're in, if anybody's ever been in a fight overseas or whatever, you learn from it. You do an AAR. And I AAR'd myself, that these were the signs, these were the symptoms. And I started getting help. I started reaching out. And I think that made the biggest world difference, was reaching out and talking to other people about it, rather than trying to bottle everything up.
Awesome. So one of the things I heard the most is you found a group, right? You found a team. Us as veterans, we're used to having that group, that sense of brotherhood, that sense of structure. And when we get out of the military, that's all gone. That's all taken away from us. Like we have this structure that we're used to. We have our brothers that have our back, but we're out and we try to do this all on our own, right? And we're just not wired that way. We're not wired to do things all on our own. We're used to someone telling us to do something, and we're used to our brothers having our back. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, I teach one of the kids' classes, and I have them say one team, one fight every time we do push-ups. I go down one team, they all yell one fight. And that's really what it was. I mean, I forgot the first rule of a firefight, bring friends. And the second rule is have your friends bring friends. I mean, and when you start forgetting the rules of a firefight, you're going to lose. And that's what was happening. I mean, I think that's a lot of veterans today that are suffering from depression and stuff. We forget to reach out. We forget to build those connections, because there's an old saying, cold is the brother's back that has no one to stand at. And I mean, I've told some of the guys, that I've worked with, especially, when they're contemplating going down the dark path, stand with me, man, put you back to mine, and we can fight. We can do this together. As long as we're back to back, the world can't overcome us. So, and I think that's one of the biggest things, especially with the veteran community, and, seeing it in both the Army and the Navy, through my wife's career. It's a huge factor of being able to have somebody that you can call on, or, when you have that weak moment and have to take a knee, they're there to pick you back up. I know those that have cleared rooms know that you can't stand back up on your own. You got to have somebody grab your harness and pick you back up. And that's kind of what happens. We fall down and we forget to let somebody pick us back up to help us.
Absolutely. So. Absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes we, us being macho men, we just don't want to reach out and ask for that help, because we feel like it's less manly, Yvonne, I'd like to hear from you. You have you said over 30 years of experience. I want to hear things that you've learned in the past, or things that you've learned through your course of your career.
Okay. I think you have a good point. It's the macho man syndrome, and it's almost, the military teaches you to be very independent and strong all the time, no matter what. And, leave no soldier behind. You're always there for the other guy. You're right there. You're supporting people, so you don't really get involved in having as you're suffering through military, and a lot of people in general, everybody, even understand that they're actually suffering from PTSD because they went through an event that in times of war, in times of tragedy, in times of COVID-19 seem pretty normal that everybody else is doing okay, but they affect each person is different in how it resonates and how it triggers emotions with you. And for a lot of soldiers, they come back and say, well, I'm not sleeping. I'm having vivid dreams. If somebody wakes me up, I feel like I'm ready to reach out and punch somebody. I am jittery, I'm hypervigilant, I'm not feeling good, I'm eating too little, I'm eating too much. I'm feeling really depressed. I feel like I shouldn't even be here. I should have been the one to die while I was overseas, with just survivor's guilt. And when you begin to listen and hear the story, and you say, well, it sounds like it is post-traumatic stress disorder. And the first question they ask usually is, what is that? And then we go back and pull out the bat and find out how they affected you. And what are your dreams like? And what are the things that trigger you? From fireworks to things that are on TV, it can be almost anything. It can be a car backfiring. It can be anything that's a sudden noise that all of a sudden puts you into, fight or flight mode. And it really makes life really hard for you. And for a lot of guys, when they're coming back, they figure that it's a sign just not able to function. And that depression just snowballs. It snowballs like running around a hamster wheel, like a snowball getting bigger, to the point where they don't see any reason to be here anymore because they're weak. There's nothing they can deal with, and everything is just too much to handle.
Absolutely. So I want to hear from both of you. What would you say to a veteran that is suffering and just feels like his family or friends would do better without them? I know, Thomas, you mentioned that as part of your story. What would you say to another veteran if he's feeling this way right now, that he feels his family would do better without him?
The truth of that is nobody does.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Ms. Yvonne.
Okay, Thomas, I want to hear from you first.
All righty, Ms. Yvonne. Personally, as somebody who's gone through it, I would definitely tell a veteran that nobody's ever better off without you. No one. Short term, sure, maybe. Maybe my family would have been better off for a couple of days or whatever, but in the long run, I wouldn't have been there for my daughter. My wife would have had to find another male role model for her. There's just so many things that the long-term effects of a short-term decision like that, it's not worth it. People need you. There's always somebody looking up to you. And that's something I used to say in my daily motivationals a lot, was that there's always someone looking up to you, someone learning from you. And, when they see you fall and get back up, and as I told you yesterday, my favorite thing in the world is if you can look up, you can get up. And it's something I took to heart. My daughter sees that, in me. The kids that I teach see that, they see that, Mr. Thomas is getting his butt kicked out there, but he keeps getting back up, but when you fall and you don't get back up, what kind of example are you setting? What have you really done? Nobody's better off without you at that point. In fact, you've hurt them, you've given them a horrible example at that point. And it just, don't let it, don't ever fall into that trap of believing it's true. It's just not.
Absolutely. Yvonne?
You have a great point, Thomas. I love some of the things that you said. If you can look up, you can get up. In fact, I'm probably going to steal that from you. But it's true. It's great. It's fantastic. But you're absolutely right. And, if somebody's coming to me and they're saying they're feeling suicidal, well, the first thing, I don't want them to be alone. And I want to shut the door. I don't want them to think they just have an hour with me. When I shut the door and I put a do not disturb sign, it means I'm seeing nobody else until this is settled. And that means I listen to the story, whether it's 20 minutes or 3 hours, to just talk about it, get through it, help the veteran understand what he's feeling. And also understand, I think, pulling from you, Thomas, is that, your family is not better off without you. It's going to hurt them in the long run. You are valuable to the people that are involved in your life and that you're very important. Right now, you're feeling very emotional and maybe weak and feeling a lot of guilt. But there's lots of things that I can do to help with that. And I usually ask that you just give me some time and promise me that in between sessions, if you're not feeling okay, and I don't care what time of day or night it is, pick up the phone and call me. I will talk to you. You know, I'm always available. And if you really need me, I'm more than happy to be there for you. And I also try to find out, you know, if there are other veterans in the area that they're connected well with, and make sure that they start to really develop that network group so they have each other to depend on. And, you know, I also think too that both of you have talked about, you know, the importance of exercise is huge. I send all my vets to the gym. I get them all a gym membership. I get them involved in groups that will just go out there. I have a hiking group that is functioning on Sundays right now, and they're doing a great job. It's all guys with PTSD. It's absolutely imperative that they start to feel good physically so they can start to feel good mentally.
Absolutely. Great words. I mean, you guys hear what Thomas and Yvonne are saying, that you should feel no shame of and feel like you are not deserve to, or feel like you don't deserve to live. Sorry. You should never feel like your family is better off without you, because it's not true. There's going to be someone in your life that is not better without you. There's someone that needs you. And some of the answers that we've addressed to this is get in a community, get in a veterans community, it doesn't even have to just be a veterans community. Get in a community, period, because that's what we used to be in, right? And seek professional help, right? Yeah. Seek help from somebody. It's okay to reach out and seek for help. It's okay to reach out, because there's a bunch of professionals out there reaching down to pull you up. Not only professionals out there, but your brothers and sisters who also serve in the military are trying to pull you up. Your family members are trying to pull you up, right? We all love you, and your family loves you. There's no reason to go and take your life, because there's going to be so many people that are going to miss you, and they're going to be hurting because you're gone. So next, I kind of want to point out a couple things here. If you're a family member of a veteran, or even if you are a veteran and don't really understand if you're suffering from PTSD, I kind of want us to review and go over some of the signs that you can visualize and see if your family member is suffering from PTSD. We took a couple notes. The three of us talked the other day about some of the signs, and I kind of want to go over those. We talked a lot about some veterans like to drink alone. Veterans like to be secluded from others. Veterans like to lash out. A lot of people with PTSD will tend to lash out, or depression will lash out just for no reason. They may be unaware of their current situation. And I think, Thomas, you told me that was in your story as well, that there was a time where you just didn't know where you were. And that happens a lot. And there's veterans can be extremely emotional at some points, but also extremely locked down at other points. So these are some of the signs that you can see, that you can visualize to tell if your family member or someone you know, or your friend, or maybe even yourself, is suffering from this. And Yvonne, have you noticed any other signs that you can mention?
Yeah, in addition to being triggered by different things, being very jumpy around fireworks, TV shows, loud noises, things like that, typically they tend to be very hypervigilant. So in going into a restaurant, instead of me looking at you because you're sitting across from me and talking to me, I'm looking around you. I'm looking to see who's coming into the building. I'm looking to see, what is my best way out? Where can I take cover if I need to? And so I'm not really enjoying the dinner or the dinner conversation with you. I'm someplace else. And for a lot of family spouses and children, they complain that they don't feel like they're being listened to by the veteran and their family, because they're not. The veteran is being too busy keeping himself and his family safe as well. Also very jumpy. If you're having a bad dream and I reach over and I touch your shoulder, you might reach up ready to just swing. And in some cases, spouses have reported getting hurt, being punched, not meaning, it was never meant to be an intentional blow, but it happens. Sometimes they are very, very angry and will punch walls, put holes in walls, kick doors, knock things over. It just because the emotion has to go somewhere. And it becomes very, very difficult to sleep. A lot of veterans find that they're sleeping 2 to 3 hours per night instead of 7 to 8 or 10 hours a night. And once they wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, they can't go back to sleep. So they're also running on exhaustion, which is making it very difficult for them to be cognitively present for their family or their job the following morning.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thomas, do you have anything to add to any warning signs that you noticed, and maybe some signs that you went through that your family may have pointed out?
Definitely. As I told you yesterday, one of the biggest eye-opening things for me was going to the board meeting. When I filed for my claims and everything, a lot of stuff, being the VA, a lot of things get kicked back, and then you have to go and be reviewed. And my wife had to give testimony. And I gotten a bunch of character statements before that, probably about 40 to 50 of them that had to be read. And I'll be honest with you, some of the stuff that I read was kind of hard. It was a shining the spotlight on the darkest parts of myself. And I think a lot of veterans, just kind of, we push it under the rug, oh, it's not that bad. I lost my temper a little bit. It's not so bad. Listening to my wife talk about some of the incidents that had occurred, it was heartbreaking. I mean, it was an 1.5-hour drive back to the house. And I asked her at one point why she was even married to me. And did she want to stay married to me? Not because I was mad or angry, because I guess I was, but I wasn't mad or angry at her. I was mad and angry at myself for letting myself get that bad before I sought treatment. And a lot of these things had been happening while I was in the service. It wasn't just, when I got out, everything, exploded. It was beforehand. One of the times I'd mentioned yesterday, I put my fist on the table, and I didn't think I hit it all that hard, but I cracked the table in half, and then I lost my mind. I mean, it was one of the few times in my life I saw red, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was screaming, beating it to death with a table leg. And my wife looks at me and goes, "Do you feel better?" And I dropped the table leg and said, "Yeah, I'm going for a run." Well, as she gave her testimony, that she talked about how she cried when I left the house, that she was so in fear for her life at that moment, that I'd never laid a hand on her. I'd never touched her, but that I was so angry and so destructive in that moment. She didn't know what to do about it. And, all I could do after that was apologize and tell her how sorry I was. And that was one of the times, she told me, you really need to seek treatment, and as most veterans will tell you, we hate talking to shrinks. We absolutely hate it. Most of them don't get us. They don't really care. They're there for the money. There's 1,000 excuses, but every now and then you find a good one like Miss Yvonne who, hey, day or night, you call me. Let's make sure you get better. And I mean, if I could say this to Miss Yvonne, thank you so much for what you do. Because you're in the co-passenger seat with us when we're reliving this stuff. So not only do you, get to hear about the trauma, but you get to see what it's done to another individual. And I know that takes a toll. It's hard to open up, but once you do, you'll find out that just how bad things really had gotten for yourself, because as I said, we look through rose-colored glasses, we glaze everything over and say, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. When really it is. When the excuses fall down, we get to see what it's really like. And it's terrifying sometimes.
Yeah, it is terrifying. And finding a provider that you trust, somebody who's actually going to listen to you. And hopefully that provider is reassuring you that I'm not judging you, and I don't think you're weak. It takes so much courage for you to come in here and see me. And you've made the first big step, and just kind of pull the positive back out of it. Because I think too many people, both in the military as well as in civilian life, think mental health and mental health providers are a sign of weakness, a sign of that you're not able to cope by yourself. I think that being able to say, hey, I need extra help and I can go ask for it is by far the biggest sign of courage that anybody can ever show. To be able to let yourself be that open and that vulnerable to somebody who can take that and really help you. It takes a lot more courage to ask for help than to go alone.
Absolutely. And I think that's a very powerful message, guys. It does take a lot more courage to just try to do stuff alone. You're not going to get there. I mean, just look at any situation in this world. The most successful people in the world are not doing it alone. Okay, there's people around them. They have a team. And you guys, it's the same for us. We used to have a team. We want a team now. We need someone to hear us. We need someone to talk to us. We need someone to ask us questions. But if you're not going to reach out to those people, then they don't know what questions to ask you. So again, to people that know people that may be suffering, go ahead and start asking them those questions. How are you feeling? And if they're lashing out, there's other resources for you. I've linked to the top of this podcast a bunch of resources, including the Veteran Crisis Line. You don't have to be a veteran to call that. You can be a family member of a veteran to call that crisis line. If you think a veteran is suffering, or if you are suffering, please call that number. It is a 3-point method. There's a number you can call, there's a website, and there's a number you can text. All right, you can do all 3 of those things. So I've linked that to the top. I've linked some other resources as well. We went over some of them the other day, and we tried to pull out some resources for you guys. Let me pull those up real quick because I had them in here. Yeah, so we got the Geese for Geese, and that's the one. Thomas, explain a little bit what Geese for Geese is.
Geese for Geese is a organization that takes veterans and active duty, and if you can't afford a gi, they give one to you. They make sure what gym you're going to. That way, it's just not you're reselling it, and they give you a gi. And it gets you on that road. It gets you started finding a team. And as I said, I tell everybody, BJJ is a lifesaver. Everybody from stay-at-home moms to combat soldiers and everything else are doing jiu-jitsu because it's a great workout mentally and physically. And for that hour or 2 hours that you're on the mat, the whole world just kind of drains away. In addition to that, they have another organization called DD214 Fightwear. Great organization. I've got one of their gis myself and 2 of their rash guards. Their mission statement's amazing. They're out there supporting veterans, trying to get guys into the gyms, trying to, help them see there's a team there, and a lot of times when you go to these places, you find other veterans, you find people you can connect with. Like currently in my gym, we have 4 Marines, 7 Navy guys, 3 of us are prior Army, and I think there's a couple Coast Guard there, and I mean, we're able to connect with guys that, kind of know where you're coming from and kind of can shoot the crap with you a little bit. You can tell funny stories, like the one I told you the other day where I, went clearing my house butt naked and ran out into the yard with a shotgun over a backfire. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those signs of PTSD, but looking back, we're able to laugh about it, and not be embarrassed from it, and then there's also Lift for the 22, which they try to get guys into gyms working out. That is strictly, go pump some iron, get the blood flowing. And as I've said many times during this, that's the first step in the right direction. It's kind of like, I think the Admiral got on there during a commencement speech and said, he makes his bed every morning because it's something he could control. Well, getting out there and working out is something you can do. You can find that hour a day. You can find 30 minutes in the day to get out there and work out. And these places try to help you and make sure that you're connected.
Absolutely. Awesome. And yeah, again, that other resource is that Veterans Crisis Line. Please reach out to that Veterans Crisis Line if you are a family member or you are a veteran. And also, jiu-jitsu may not be for everybody, okay? So I do have a group that I run personally. It's called Fit Veteran Dads, and it's a group where I help you guys get back into shape and eat healthy, drop some fat, and build up some muscle based on whatever equipment that you have. So that is linked in the description as well. Please take a look at all those references, all right? And if you are a veteran or you are a family member of a veteran and you've seen any of these signs that we've discussed, and your loved ones, please reach out to that crisis line or reach out to somebody. And if you're a veteran that is suffering, get in a group, be a part of a team, right? I can't stress it enough. We all were a part of a team before and it was working for us. Why would it not work now, right? Yeah. It was certainly going to work now because we need our brotherhood. And to the women veterans out there as well, and we're not neglecting you. I know there's some of you that may be suffering as well, but there's a lot of male veterans right now that are just really struggling hard because of that brotherhood that we used to be a part of, and now we just kind of want that back. And that's that missing piece. That's that one missing piece that a lot of us don't have. We're trying to go at it alone, and it's just not working for us. And you'll hear this from me. You've probably heard this from other people. If there's something in your life that's not working, that's what needs to be fixed. If something in your life isn't working, you need to assess the situation and see what can be fixed. It's more likely that you're going at it alone.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to thank both of you for coming on this podcast today. We're going to go ahead and end this podcast now. I really appreciate you guys. Both of you have a super powerful message. I think it'll resonate with anybody that listens to this. If you're listening now, please share this with anybody that needs to hear it. Please share it with your groups. I will be saving this and trying to post this to YouTube. So I'll put the link of that inside the comments below, because I know not everybody is a friend with me on my Facebook page. So that link will be available as well. That's it for today, guys. I appreciate you guys coming on this podcast with me and spreading this message. You guys have a great day, all right?
Yep, it was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.